Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are tackling the ultimate compliance puzzle, scaling safety across multiple manufacturing plants without just drowning in administrative bloat. Look, if you operate facilities across different cities or different states, you know exactly how heavy those giant corporate safety binders can get, right? We're going to unpack a brilliant framework that strips away the red tape but actually strengthens your OSHA compliance. Okay, it all really starts with a critical question. And it's one that traps a lot of expanding businesses into making severe regulatory mistakes. Can one safety manual effectively cover three completely different manufacturing plants? Well, the short answer is yes, but only if you perfectly separate your universal rules from your local infrastructure. See, when companies grow, they tend to just copy and paste their original manual across every new facility. But standardizing the wrong details doesn't protect you at all. It actually creates a massive legal liability. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the multi-plant compliance trap, then move right into universal rules and the accident prevention plan. After that, we'll look at streamlining lockout/tagout, localizing HAZCOM, managing confined space inventories, and finally, we'll wrap up with the decentralization playbook. Let's jump right into Section 1, the multi-plant compliance trap and the danger of standardizing localized data. Imagine you have a universal corporate policy that strictly mandates an injured employee must be taken to, say, the Nova Medical Center in Tyler, Texas. Great for the Tyler plant. But if you hand that exact same manual to your brand new facility in Edinburgh, Virginia, your supervisor there is geographically stranded. I mean, forcing that Virginia supervisor to follow a manual hard-coded with a Texas clinic creates immediate operational failure. Waiting around to figure out that they actually need the local Valley Health System violates OSHA's mandate for immediate care. You simply cannot hard-code local geography into a universal rulebook. It just doesn't work. Moving on to Section 2, Universal Rules, building the corporate compliance hub through the accident prevention plan. So the solution to this trap is a really strict separation of static, universal behaviors from your dynamic, site-specific infrastructure. Think of it like a hub-and-spoke model. The hub is your centralized corporate policy. It holds those unshakable workflows, like reporting an injury within 48 hours. The spokes, on the other hand, are the localized dependencies for each individual plant. They contain the dynamic details, like the specific address of that local clinic or the exact breaker panel numbers for their unique machinery. Now, your core accident prevention plan, that is your ultimate training foundation. This is where you establish those unwavering accountabilities. A solid accident prevention plan clearly dictates safety responsibilities for both managers and employees, and it actively demands that floor personnel are actually involved in identifying and correcting hazards before injuries even happen. Plus, proper training on this hub enforces really detailed documentation metrics for accident investigations. That ensures total compliance with strict mandates like Texas DWC Rule 120.1. No matter what plant you're standing in, these core corporate workflows absolutely do not change. This central hub also dictates the strict timeline for your standard corporate workflows and reporting. These timeframes are entirely universal across the board. You've got a 24-hour limit to notify OSHA of a severe incident and a 48-hour workers' comp reporting deadline. Then you've got your ongoing monthly safety committee walkthroughs and floor audits, and crucially, management must gather every single January for mandatory trend analysis reviews. These annual safety reviews are essential to track performance across the whole organization. The calendar is standard, only the facility changes. Let's look at Section 3, streamlining lockout/tagout, moving from central binders out to machine placards. As you know, OSHA requires machine-specific isolation instructions. But if you try to put the breaker lists for the Tyler plant's Komori printing press into the exact same central document as the Frankston plant's Bob's die cutter, your master policy becomes a chaotic 100-page nightmare. Honestly, every time an electrician moves a single wire, you'd have to revise the entire corporate policy. The solution here? Stop burying master tables in a front office binder. You need to extract that localized data entirely. Instead, what you do is create single-page, machine-specific energy control placards and post them directly at the operator stations. When an authorized employee needs to service a flexopress, they aren't flipping through a giant manual in an office. They look right at the machine to find the specific electrical disconnects and pneumatic air valves they need to lock out. It perfectly satisfies OSHA. It's way safer, it's significantly faster, and best of all, it keeps your corporate hub perfectly clean. Now for Section 4. Localizing hazard communication. Tailoring your chemical registry by plant. Just think about the sheer variety of chemicals used across your operations. A flexo-label plant in Virginia requires completely different safety data sheets than an offset carton plant in Texas. Your core HAZCOM policy can easily dictate that all secondary containers must have GHS hazard labels. That's a universal rule, right? But if you force all your plants to share one master chemical list, you are legally requiring your Virginia plant to maintain safety data sheets for heavy offset fountain solutions that they don't even own. You absolutely must push the actual physical chemical registry and those SDS binders down to the local plant level. Section 5 brings us to managing confined space inventories and the real danger of hard-coded asset lists. Look, here is a hard truth about compliance. A confined space program is legally bound to a localized physical asset inventory. We see this mistake happening constantly. A corporate manual explicitly labels entry inside the cyclone as a permit-required space. But what happens when you open a new facility that runs completely different machinery and doesn't even have a cyclone on site? Boom! Your policy is legally invalid because the inventory is entirely disconnected from reality. Just like those machinery placards, the specific list of confined spaces has to be externalized into a localized appendix for each specific facility. Finally, let's dive into Section 6, the decentralization playbook. Lean team execution right on the factory floor. So how does a lean team actually execute all this on the factory floor? Well, it comes down to really clear, standard corporate workflows. Your QA manager owns the static hub. They control document revisions and maintain the universal master records, like updating the overarching accident prevention plan. Then, your plant manager acts as the site authority. They conduct the localized floor audits and enforce those rules right there on their specific floor. And when those audits identify hazards, the maintenance team is responsible for physically correcting those hazards and fixing the physical floor issues. Training your lean team on these exact responsibilities, that is the engine that makes decentralization actually work. I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Is your corporate safety manual actually protecting your localized plants, or is it actively creating your next OSHA citation? I highly encourage you to evaluate your own safety binders today. If you're hard-coding local details into your universal rules, it is definitely time to untangle your hub from your spokes. Extract those localized equipment lists, empower your lean teams, and clean up your compliance. Thanks so much for exploring this strategy with me. Now get out there, review your accident prevention plan, and stay safe.